Our homes are supposed to be a place of peace, but even in the happiest of places, something sinister can lurk just out of sight. Countless people have discovered this as they've wandered into the dimly lit places beneath their floorboards. If only they knew what was down there, they would have stayed above ground, in the light. These are the 10 scariest don't go into the basement stories. Number 10 is basement bedroom. Carrie had recently moved into a new house. As the basement was tidy and clean, she fell in love with the idea of turning it into a bedroom, almost a hidden place away from the rest of the world where she could rest easy. The first 6 nights there were uneventful, but the 7th hinted at a dark presence nearby. Carrie began to hear voices, but assumed that they were coming from the roommate upstairs. Lying in bed the next night, her blood ran cold as she heard a child's laugh coming from the darkness all around her. Persuading herself that it was just her imagination, she gave the basement one last chance. Whatever it is that was down there, at around 4 a.m., Carrie awoke with pain in her leg. Turning the light on, she was horrified at what she saw. Teeth marks on her skin and a small red handprint of a child next to it. Number 9 is a collector. Many of us hold on to cherished possessions because of their history. They link us to meaningful times in our lives, but in some cases, those cherished possessions can carry with them frightening implications. In the case of Kaplan, he was clearing out the home of an elderly lady whose husband had recently passed away. This involved decluttering the place and throwing out anything which the old lady didn't want to keep. The basement was creepy enough, piled high with a lifetime of trinkets and boxes. One box, however, held Kaplan's interest. When he lifted it, something shook inside, loose like broken glass. Curious, Kaplan opened up the box and found that it was filled with individual pulled human teeth. Neither the old lady or the deceased husband were dentists, so the question is, how did they get the teeth? Number 8 is something's banging down there. Reddit is often used to query situations. People will ask fellow Redditors to help them with a problem. It's a great way to gain insight, but sometimes all it can do is recommend that you move out immediately. One Redditor was told that when she posted about moving into a new house. 2 weeks later, she headed down into the basement, only to find several boxes open and her belongings strewn about. She then heard a strange banging coming from the basement at night and began to suspect that someone or something was down there. Grabbing her pepper spray, she investigated the noise, only to discover that a door which led outside was now unlocked and that more belongings had been moved around. Someone had been coming into her basement looking for something at night. Number 7 are footsteps. Most accounts which can be labeled as don't go into the basement stories imply that as long as you remain above ground, you'll avoid the danger hiding down there. However, in one account, an anonymous poster was more worried about what might come up from the basement. The person was in 4th grade when this happened, and at night they noticed a sound coming from the basement, one which sounded increasingly like footsteps. Eventually, these footsteps would slowly ascend the basement staircase and enter the house, walking around from room to room, usually stopping before reaching the poster's bedroom door. That was until one night when the bedroom door was left open, and the footsteps neared only to reveal the shadowy figure of a young child, who then returned to the basement. Number 6 is the basement apartment. In one especially eerie account, a tenant described an experience in a basement apartment. The tenant loved the place, even though it was underground, and found it to be a great location for keeping their vintage book collection. But when they returned several times to find the apartment door had been unlocked, suspicion grew that an unwelcome guest was nearby. Then one day, the tenant found that once again the apartment door was open, but this time something had been left inside the refrigerator in the kitchen. It was a vintage book from the 1900s and was not a part of their collection. The tenant contacted the landlady, who panicked because the previous tenant had been extremely creepy and might still have a key. After the locks were finally changed to the basement apartment, the strange goings-on ceased. Number 5 is the missing father. In Long Island, a long-standing mystery took a strange turn, one which involved a basement no one would want to enter. It was November of 2018, a whole 57 years after a man named George Carroll had suddenly disappeared. The case had been unsolved since 1961. Michael Carroll, George's son, had heard rumors in his family for years that his father's body was hidden somewhere in the house. George had vanished when Michael was just 8 months old, so he finally decided to prove that his father had not abandoned him. It was still shocking nonetheless when Michael dug down 2.44 meters into the house's basement and discovered the buried remains of his father. Michael is on record as saying he thinks he knows who put the body there, but has refused to elaborate on those comments. Number 4 are moving walls. Whenever someone is going to buy a property, they bring in a property appraiser or surveyor first. These trained professionals can identify any potential issues with that property, which might affect its value. However, some have seen more than others, and many have a creepy tale or two. One appraiser in particular shared his story about a trip into a basement which made his skin crawl. As he descended beneath the property, he was looking for things like water damage or issues with the pipes, but instead he was horrified to see the walls pulsating as if alive. Terrified, on closer inspection, he realized that the moving walls were the result of countless mice crawling through the cavities and gnawing at everything in their path. A mass of teeth and tails like wriggling worms, moving as if they were a single creeping organism. Number 3 is the cable guy. Surveyors and appraisers aren't the only professionals who have to explore basements in their jobs. Cable engineers need to do this too, and some of them have also encountered basements you would never go near. One cable engineer called Dave Corinne had an infamous encounter beneath the floorboards of a house in New Jersey. As he was drilling holes in the walls to feed cable through, he suddenly heard a low, guttering growl. Trembling, he switched his flashlight on and shone it through the hole. There, staring back at him from inside the basement, was a huge, lumbering bear. Needless to say, Dave dropped his tools and ran for his life. Luckily, the bear did not give chase, or had it done so, it would have been eating cable engineer for dinner. Number 2 are Sinister Sounds. Sometimes it's not what you see which is frightening, but instead what you hear which can cause your pulse to race. Back in 2007 in Philadelphia, a YouTuber by the name of Don Garvey posted an audio recording of what he claimed to be a ghostly voice from beyond the grave. More than that, he claimed that the voice was demonic in nature, and when you listen to it, it's hard not to think that it sounds more demonic than human. backstory to this clip is that it was captured in the basement of a Philadelphia property where the owners had been hearing eerie noises at night. After 3 nights of recording and turning up nothing but silence, they finally caught this tormented sound, which investigators believe was made by something unthinkable, which resides in the darkness of that basement. And number 1 is Just in Time. Urban legends about ominous basements are common, but while most can be traced back to their original fictional beginnings, one particular story has more weight behind it. In fact, many believe it is 100% real. The basement encounter involved a 20-something woman who, after recently moving to Boston, finally found a place to stay. All was well initially. That is, until she heard something moving around in the basement. Friends and family reassured her that it was just the old building settling at night, but when the noises continued, the woman called the police, and she was glad that she did. When they investigated the basement, they found a man hiding down there, and he was armed with a number of knives. But the creepiest part of all is that when the woman saw the man as he was being taken away, she recognized him as someone that she had dated once on Tinder.